Hey, it's Jeff. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you how I care for the Syngonium chiapense. What an absolutely gorgeous plant. Despite it being still a little bit more on the rare side, this is actually one of my easiest and fastest growing Syngoniums. I'm also going to show you how to propagate it. I do have some currently rooting in water, so I'm going to show you or share those results with you. So let's get into it. I have two separate plants and they are both in two very different growing locations. This one is upstairs in my bedroom window. It also has a plant spectrum grow light. Also, it is a west facing window, so it gets light later in the day, like a bright light later in the day, but there is a house blocking it, so it doesn't get any direct sunlight. So I would classify this as a medium light location. This gorgeous one is downstairs. It is part of my little plants on planks. A little area just down there on the floor. It is getting only artificial light from a couple grow lights. So that's kind of the locations that I have these in. One's in terracotta, one's in plastic. So very different growing conditions, but they are both doing really, really good. Just as we kind of briefly touched on the current lighting conditions, that's the nice thing about Syngoniums in general is they don't usually need or require like a ton of light. You have to think of how these grow naturally. These are actually from Mexico, I believe, and they, just like most aeroids, they grow kind of on the forest floor. They latch onto trees with their aerial roots and they kind of grow upwards. They might get a little bit of direct sunlight kind of poking through the tree canopy, but for me, no direct sunlight. It's going to be said for most houseplants as well, but if you do have them in a lower light location, don't expect a really fast growth rate. It'll probably be much slower than if you had them in that medium light location, and that's the case for these ones with me. They've been growing really, really fast. I would say this one in particular has been putting out basically a new leaf just right kind of one after another. I use a really chunky mix with this plant, so it's tropical plant soil with some perlite as well as some orchid bark, and you got some charcoal in there too. It just likes a really nice kind of airy mixture. I also like to use terracotta for most of my houseplants, as terracotta, it's very porous. It basically absorbs soil moisture lower in the pot. So although they do like a good thorough watering, Syngoniums in general don't like to sit in soggy soil. And with this one over here, the soil is really, really dry, but the leaves will tend to curl a little bit if it needs water, or they might get a little bit droopy. So that's why this one is not looking as, I guess, perky. I don't know if that's a good word or not, but these ones, like the leaves are nice and flat. They look really healthy. These ones are starting to curl a little bit. So I just left it for this video so I can show how to water it. But once you give it a good thorough watering, it's going to perk up as well. I am getting a little bit of a yellow leaf on this one, as recently I took this out of the pot and it was severely root bound, so I had to cut the roots up a little bit as I didn't want this plant to go in any larger of a pot. So just did a little bit of a root prune, just kind of trialing how the plant responds to that, and so far it's been doing okay. It hasn't dropped any leaves. This one hasn't gotten any yellower. I know root pruning really isn't very popular out there. Basically it stunts the growth of the plant, I do believe, but let me know down in the comment section if you've ever done any root pruning, pardon me, with any of your houseplants, as they tend to get a little bit out of control at times, and I just don't want a larger pot because I want to keep this one in my bedroom, and the windowsill itself can't accommodate any larger of a pot. So this one is going to be a bit of an experiment plant. This one I'm going to keep just growing up the plank just to see how large I can get the plant and the leaves. So yeah, this one I'm okay with just experimenting a little bit with. I also like using these orchid pots as they have little slits on the side which provide nice airflow for the root system as well. So far it's done really well, and that way you can kind of see what the roots are looking like as well. Here's one poking through. It's a little dry, but it's just nice to see the root growth through the pot, as obviously you can't see that with terracotta. Okay, so now I'm going to give it some water. There is fertilizer in this water, and this is the brand that I use. It's Dynagrow Foliage Pro. Basically, it's a liquid fertilizer. You just follow the recommendations or the directions on the back, place it in a watering can, and then you just water it, the plant like you normally would. So I'm just going to first soak the top here, just kind of let it drain through. I've noticed with these orchid pots, some of the water drains like directly out of the sides, so you just might have to give it a few more like extra soakings, because you're going to lose some out of the sides instead of coming out the bottom of the drain hole. I like to pay attention to the weight of the pot as well. So it was pretty light when I first started, but now it's got some weight to it. But I'm just gonna give it a couple more soakings here, just make sure that the water reaches the roots at the bottom. You can also bottom water these plants, so just like what I'm doing right now, you can keep this plant in a saucer and just add water in the bottom instead of top watering. It's nice if you have an issue with like fungus gnats, you can bottom water. That way the top of the soil never, I guess, gets wet, and basically all the roots are at the bottom of the pot anyway. So if you have a fungus gnat issue and you don't want to water from the top, bottom water, just fill up a saucer like this, let the soil kind of wick it up itself, add more water if you need, but that's the benefit of bottom watering, is you don't have the top of the soil staying soggy, which attracts fungus gnats. Okay, so I'm going to let that soak through. It feels much heavier, so that's all the water I'm going to give it, and that's pretty much it. The leaves on this one in particular look really filthy. They need a good cleaning, but I'm not going to do that today just because I have been using these beneficial mites on all of my houseplants, basically throughout my house, as I did find 2 calatheas that had thrips on it. I didn't see any on this plant in particular, but I'm not taking any chances. I'm using these beneficial mites to search out for any unseen pests, and basically they look like little pieces of dust on the leaves. So I don't want to clean the leaves off right now. I'll just let these mites do their thing and hopefully take care of some houseplant pests. If you haven't seen that video, I'll leave it up in the top corner here somewhere. You can go check that out. Show you how to like apply it, some information about beneficial mites instead of using chemicals. So go check that out if you are interested in watching that. Now, yeah, just make sure you thoroughly soak these plants until the water comes out the bottom. Let it dry out completely. Syngoniums, like I kind of mentioned already, is they don't like sitting in soggy soil. So soak it and then basically let the soil dry out completely is how I do it. I placed this one on the plank probably about 2 months ago, and I secured it with this little plant Velcro type thing, just so I can train it to latch onto the board here. And you can see this aerial root has already secured itself to the board. It didn't take long to basically train itself to latch onto. When I water this plant, I will take my little spray bottle and mist the back of the board here. Basically, I'll just soak it. Come on, focus. I'll let the water run down into the soil as well. Aerial roots do serve a purpose in its natural habitat. They search out for moisture and nutrients and help with plant growth, and they also obviously secure the plant to the tree that they grow up. There is another aerial root. I don't know if I can get it on camera, but right back here. Come on, get in there. Yeah, there's one right there that it is now I guess latching onto there as well. So this is a complete success so far, just on just a piece of pine lumber, I guess. I just basically stuck it in the pot. And right here, this little pointy part is a new leaf starting to develop, which is kind of exciting. When they grow upright, they'll put out one leaf on one side and one on the other, and they just keep, I guess, alternating as it grows up the plant. So you can see right here, this leaf is off the stem, and then it has one on the right side, one on the left, one on the right, one on the left. So it just keeps going side to side as it continues to grow upright. I just can't get over these leaves. They're absolutely stunning. And I don't know why this one in particular has a little bit of, I guess, variegation. I don't know if it's because it's getting brighter light, like compared to this one. It's basically just a solid green leaf, which this is what the Syngonium chiapense is supposed to look like, just a solid green leaf, but this one has some variegation on it. So it might be because it's receiving more light from the grow lights. I'm honestly not too sure, but it's gorgeous. Whatever's going on with this one. So I'm going to use this one as my little experiment plant. I did chop the top off just up here, as when I first saw this yellow leaf, I thought the plant was declining. I thought I was going to lose it, so I decided to start chopping it up in the chance that I lose this plant. So I did cut the top off here. I'll show you the propagations which have been rooting in water. So basically what you want to do is find a portion of the stem that has a leaf attached to it. This is a node, and you can see there's a few little bumps along the node here as well. Those are aerial roots. And then you can see down here, there is another portion of the stem that has a leaf. So these are the nodes, and the area in between this is called an internode. That's where you want to make the cut. So if you take some clean pruning shears, you cut in between those nodes, just like this. And then you have a single node stem cutting. So you got the leaf attached, and you have a portion of the stem as well as the nodes and aerial roots. You can propagate this directly in soil. I've had really good success with water. You can let the end callus over, but I usually just stick it right in water, no problems. So you will get a new growth point popping out of the node, and that's how you make an entirely new plant from a single node cutting. Here are the two propagations that have been rooting in water for probably about 2 weeks now. So this is the top cutting, or the top portion of the stem. This one was attached to this like that, and this portion was on the plant here as well. So this is the like a single node cutting. Same with this one, but it is the top cutting. It was getting a new leaf when I put it in water, so now it's starting to unfurl, but you can see those nice roots. This can probably be planted in some soil and it would be okay, which I might actually do later on today or tomorrow. And then same with this one. It's got a nice big thick juicy root. So I'm going to put those back in water. This is simply just filtered tap water. I don't use any fertilizer or anything in my water propagations. And then here's the cutting. Oops, it's leaking a little bit of milky sap. Here is the cutting that I just took, and I'm just going to place this one in the container as well. So now from this one plant, I have now made 3 separate plants that I can pot up individually, keep them downstairs, you can sell them, whatever you want. That's the nice thing about pruning plants. When I first started cutting up plants, like my jade plant, I had to prune and propagate that one as it was basically like just flopped over. I was absolutely terrified to prune it for the first time just because I thought I was going to kill it. Trust me, pruning, it is terrifying if you've never done it, but you're not going to harm the plant. Pruning is really good for the plant. Basically, after, like, I'm just going to show right here. After you prune a plant, so you take the top of the cutting off, sometimes it will activate nodes lower in the plant so that it will start to branch out because it can no longer grow upright. It's probably going to start branching out from somewhere on this plant, and that's another way you can just get more plants. It's neat to not only make more plants, but when you propagate it, you just learn from this one as well. So I'm curious to see if it does branch out in any of these lower nodes, or just, yeah, basically see what happens. Like I said, these have been in water for a couple of weeks now. I don't like replace the water. I'll just top it up as needed. You can see the water level has dropped quite a bit. It's basically just evaporated. So I might add a little bit of water just so these top roots here don't dry out, but that's basically all I do, is just top up the water, give it a nice bright location. If you have it under grow lights, you can do that as well. Just make sure it's getting enough light to photosynthesize and produce these roots. But otherwise, when you transfer them to soil or whatever rooting medium you decide to afterwards, just make sure that you keep the soil a little bit more on the damp side for the first 2 weeks, as you don't want these water roots to dry out. So after a few weeks of keeping that soil moist, just kind of slowly cut back on your watering to kind of like a regular watering routine for these plants. But super easy to propagate, super easy to grow. I think that's going to be pretty much it for this video. I hope you liked it. Let me know down in the comment section if you have any questions or anything like that. Otherwise, thanks again for watching. Take care, everyone. Bye.